You're live.
Yay!
All
Happy
right.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday again. This happens to me every week.
June 23rd, 2021.
June 23rd. That's a familiar date.
Yeah. Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
It's Mark's birthday.
Yes, today is my birthday. So treat me nice. Gary's Guitars, our weekly guitar talk segment, syndrome. So for those of you just joining us who don't know what this is, you just ask questions and make comments in the comments section to go along with what we're talking about, and we'll just integrate you into the conversation. It's Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. This is Gary. I'm Mark. We're required by law to say this. Please subscribe, like, hit the notification button and all that. It does help the channel. It helps us kind of reach more people, because the more people you reach, the more people they let you reach on YouTube. It's a big, weird thing, but won't get into it, but it does help. And also chime in when you're out there, when you're signing on. If we got anyone signing on, we got a couple of people on. Just say hi and let us know you're there. And that will...
I just thought of something we haven't thought of.
What's that?
Merch.
Merch.
Shouldn't we be
our merch?
peddling
Yeah, we
t-shirts
should be peddling our merch as well.
We have Gary's Guitar t-shirts.
We'll show them the new bag.
Oh, and the new gig bags.
Yeah.
Well, the t-shirt's right here.
The t-shirt, yeah. For those of you who aren't regular visitors to the store, this is the t-shirt.
We have these.
Art by Dan Blakesley.
In mini sizes.
Yeah, so just send us a message and we'll hook you up.
$20.
And we got the same design on a gig bag.
I'll show them that too.
That one over there is tied to the wall. You don't want to, yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, but you can grab one from right next to you.
I could.
Yeah. And so that's pretty cool. We just, our friends at OMG Music who do the Henry Heller line hooked us up, so to speak, with these gig bags that have that same logo on them.
Stitched in color.
Yeah. Embroidered.
Not just cheapo.
Two color.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, not just transfers.
Again,
on,
in popular sizes.
So yes, we have merch to peddle.
No coffee cups yet.
Yeah, but we are here to just talk about some guitar topics. We have a couple of topics. We come in with a couple of our own topics to kind of get the ball rolling as people show up. So we'll remind you all that later, but maybe we'll just, if no one's got any comments to begin with, let's just kick it off. I'll get my little comment sheet here.
Oh, yes. You had some ideas.
There's a couple things I didn't remember. Last week, I lost my sticky note.
Right.
Losing a sticky note. Yeah.
We still yacked for an hour.
Yeah, we managed to do it. Talking about guitar is not difficult. Losing a sticky note is a bad thing. So, here are the things on last week's sticky note that I'd like to bring up. No cheating.
Oh, okay.
Someone said, let's talk about 12-string guitars. I can't remember, but one of the regulars said, just ask us to talk about 12-string guitars. So there's a few things that can be said about 12-string guitars.
They have 12 strings.
They have twice as many strings. Of course, everyone knows they're in double courses, so they can be played just like a 6-string guitar. You just put a finger on each of the 2 strings. I think we're all up to date on that.
Yeah.
I own 3 12-string guitars.
It's a lot.
For 12 strings, I suppose that's a lot. Everyone should own at least one.
Sold one to a local guitar player with many guitars today. He'd never owned a 12-string before.
Yeah, John McCormick had bought a 12-string. I have the Seagull 12-string, which I bought from you back in 1996 or something like that, 97.
Best bang for the buck.
Yeah, that's still a great guitar, and we hope to get another one in stock, but they are out of stock. That topic is later too. Then I have my Harmony Sovereign 12-string, which everyone figured out is really cool, and so now that costs a lot of money on reverb. At least I got mine. It was a gift, actually. So, and I had to fix it up, but I did. And the reason I have that is it has the trapeze tailpiece. That's a different sound. That gives you that 60s sound.
As opposed to a pin bridge.
Yeah, as opposed to the strings being pinned to the top. That is the John Lennon, you got to hide your love away sound.
That was a tailpiece?
As a tail, there was a Fromis. He had a Fromis 12-string with a tailpiece.
What else are you going to get in Britain in the 1960s?
Yeah.
Well, other than a Rickenbacker, but
For some reason, yeah, Rickenbackers are from California. I don't know why
No,
they got
but they were
Rickenbackers so easily.
Big over there.
There was some weird thing where they couldn't sell electric guitars from the United States right up until like 65 or 66, some kind of embargo, kind of weird.
Well,
Someone chime in on that if you know what I'm talking about. So that's why they were just kind of getting whatever guitar they could, you know. But so I got that, and I got the Dan Electro 12 string, and the Dan Electro 12 string is a very cool guitar, and we have that on back order too, which is another one of my topics, which is about back orders from guitar stores. But let's talk about the problems with 12 string guitars.
Tuning.
You got to changing the strings sucks.
Somehow it takes more than twice as long to tune 12 than it does 6.
The intonation is a little wacky, but that's part of the sound.
Yeah. As Cormac McCarthy said in the middle of a gig tuning his 12 string, he said, they're never in tune anyways. Let's go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it has that little extra chorusy sound if you're a little out of tune with your octaves, or the unisons as well. So there's 2 unison strings and 4 octaves. Then that gives us the gateway to the Nashville tuning. You've heard about that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Graham Parsons taught it to Keith Richards. He taught it to Pete Townsend. And Keith Richards and Pete Townsend put it on their records, and now we all know what it is. And if you don't know what it is, it's you just take the high 6 strings of a 6-string set.
Of a 12-string set.
Of a 12-string set, sorry. And it goes bling, and it's just the octave. Yeah. But it's not like a guitar capoed up because they're long strings, and it's a big sound, and they're not in the same order.
It's really cool.
It is really cool.
Yep, lots of Nashville hits. That was the rhythm guitar sound.
Yeah, just lots of that. If you want to know what does that sound like, Wild Horses, that guitar introduction. That's the quintessential Nashville tuning.
I always think of it as almost mandolin.
It's a little mandolin-y. Yeah. What else do we need? So 12 strings are also programmed to self-destruct. Has more strings on it. Most guitars want to fold up anyways, and a 12 string has even more, has twice as many strings on it.
Right.
So a lot of those are 12 string acoustics. The necks want to cave in, the bodies are drooping, the bridge is rotating, the top is
Some of them had 2 truss rods. I think some of the old guilds were double truss rods to help prevent that.
Yeah, and all the extra, tension on the neck as well.
Frequently, there are jumbo-sized bodies for lots of bracing and more strength.
Yeah. But I don't even know in particular what the viewer was asking about 12 strings. He said, just talk about 12 strings. Yeah. So we did that.
I've always, to me, why don't more electric guitar makers make a 12? Why isn't there a 12-string Les Paul or an SG? Yeah. That could be really cool.
The 12 string. Well, there was the double-headed SG.
Oh yeah, there was a 12 string, but it was attached to it.
And Epiphone made one. Yeah, had the double neck one. Right. And did they make it specifically for Jimmy Page, or did he just think that was a good idea?
I don't know.
So he could play Stairway to Heaven.
Right.
He could do the introduction on the 12 string and the later on. Maybe. And then Denny Lane from Wings played one as well. And
double neck.
Yeah. That famous Wings. Not famous. If you're a Wings fan, it's famous. The Wings Over America, the concert video they did. Remember that? And they. Have you ever seen Wings? Fan. Yeah. Well, if you ever seen Paul McCartney and Dan Lane playing in the 70s, that was probably the movie. That was the album. So they do that. Fender made a 12-string Strat on a lark. It may have been a made in Japan thing.
Yeah, briefly.
And they are sought after right now because they stopped making them. 12-string Telecaster would be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
There's
probably a custom shop version out there somewhere.
If you got enough money, there's a custom shop version. I actually thought of there's which actually brings us to another one of my topics, which is Amazon guitars, or just any of those super cheap made in China guitars that are happening out there.
Yeah.
And one of them is a 12-string Tele, the Cozart. You remember seeing the Cozart? Yeah.
We have a customer who's bought a few of those and brings them in, and I do what I can for them.
Yes.
And they work. They're not great. But...
Well, so let's move on to that topic, the topic of the Amazon guitar.
I presume they're all Chinese. I presume.
Yeah, or some kind of inexpensive Asian manufacturer.
Indonesian, maybe. They're kind of the quality of your average Chinese guitar 20 years ago when we were kind of avoiding them because they weren't very good. But the average Chinese guitar has gotten much better, but there's still that bottom of the barrel quality out there.
What someone who does business in China told me is they will make you any quality you want.
Well,
you just have to be very specific.
Yeah, but I think
and so this is the cheap guitar.
Right, but I think all of them have come up.
Yeah. Even the cheap ones are decent.
Yeah.
And the $99 or $129 Firefly 335, seen those?
Yeah, done a bunch of those.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're not great. Longevity is a big issue. I mean, we're all used to guitars that last forever, 100 years.
Yeah.
So the rest of your life, $300 Squire, you'll be giving it to your grandkids and it'll be fine. But these really cheap ones, I doubt it.
Yeah, they are
probably going to
squirrely.
work, twist, crack, break, split. Something's going to happen.
But so when I went to get a 12-string electric, I found that one, and I was like, well, if I get the neck, put it on a good telly, and there's just you can get this 12-string telly bridge from someone. I was like, maybe I can make it, put together, make it work. But then I just bought the Den Electro. It's great.
Yeah. So. Yeah, they've been doing that for a long time.
A lot of these guitars, because a lot of people see the like, oh my god, a guitar for $99, I'm gonna get it, and they do, and they get it, and it's delivered for free because it's Amazon, or if you're an Amazon member, and then they bring it in here and say, like, look what I got.
Yeah. And
Gary says,
well, the last time this happened a few weeks ago, just got this. I don't know, I have 129. I think it was a 335 style, and. Just want you to, do what you can for it, make it good. And I said, well, that's kind of a waste of time. He said, well, it's for my 8-year-old kid. He wants a guitar, but he wanted one that in this color and it looked cool. And this looked perfect. I said, you may be right. For an 8-year-old kid to start on, this is probably perfect.
It was just better than the guitar you had when you were a kid, probably.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to talk about that. My fingers still hurt.
We do. Actually, Ray, our good friend Ray, the bass player, Ray, Ray. Hassan. He bought a few of those.
I think he's up to 7 or 8 now. I keep working on them.
Because, he loves to upgrade them. Because this is another thing. People who love to upgrade guitars, they're just like a basic guitar. And everything needs to be changed. So you can just change everything.
Not everything is changeable, we've discovered. There were a couple things I couldn't do because the guitar was not willing to let me do it. So,
yeah. All right.
But my big philosophy, made this decision many years ago. If a guitar functions, plays in tune close enough, it's fine.
Yeah.
Somebody can play it and enjoy it. If it doesn't play in tune and it's impossible, then it's junk. But there's really no such thing as a bad guitar.
Even the bad guitars are good. Yeah, so it's like
if it doesn't work, then it's bad.
Even when they don't work, sometimes they can malfunction in cool ways. Some of those old Stellas and stuff that just aren't quite in tune, but just have that sound that you just associate with blues or early American music, early blues music, early 20th century music. They get a pass.
You made me think of, before I forget it again, talking about 12-string guitars and Nashville tuning, reminded me, I think it was Bobby Hearn told me, he knew a studio guy in Nashville who tuned his 12-string to an open F major 7th chord.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty adventuresome.
Well, you tune it down a step, and then you tune it to open G, and then you got to get a major 7 in there somehow. So you got to change the.
Yeah. You don't think of major 7ths in country music very often, though.
Yeah.
But early adventures in open tunings.
But he was the guy. Robbie Robertson did that on a 12-string? Acadian Driftwood.
Tuned to an
open F. So it's tuned down and then did an open G tuning, which is tuning down even more. And it probably wasn't a 12-string, but it was a big, thick, woody sound. And obviously, it's something the band went for. So, once again, just for those of you just joining us, stop by, say hi, send a message in the comments, and let us know what you want to talk about. If you have any questions, it's kind of a Q&A too. So if you have any questions about guitar stuff, just ask us and we'll make up an answer. And then subscribe and all that kind of stuff too, because that helps us keep the thing going. And my tablet just
and maybe there's a question there. Here it comes.
When it reboots, my tablet's just did something fun. Well, we flew through a couple topics too fast, but here's something that would take some time. Let's start talking about Amazon guitars. So what's the verdict Amazon? Good enough?
Yeah, I think for what they are, good beginner guitar. That beach guitar, we sometimes call them around here.
Yeah.
Go swimming. Oh, well, not the end of the world.
Yeah. Drop your canoe oar in the water.
Right.
Hey, I got my Firefly in the back. We're going to make it home, everybody.
As a retailer, I would hesitate selling them because I wouldn't feel confident about offering a warranty.
Guitars that cheap, yeah.
But, if it works and lasts for a while, great.
Yeah, it's only anything's only meant to. Only guitarists expect the thing they buy to last forever. Russ Grazier posted this thing on Facebook. He has every iPhone that ever was. He buys a new iPhone every time one comes out, and he just that's the thing. He accidentally kept since version 4, and he took this picture. He was like, "Hey, anyone want any of these things?" And he had just the whole thing lined up, every iPhone that's ever been. And so, like, if you use an iPhone, and you expect in a year or two you're going to get another one. But if you have a 1972 Yamaha acoustic, and you come in here and we tell you that it needs a neck reset, then you're offended.
What?
What? I can't spend any money on this.
It's only bought this 50 years ago.
No, it's only 45 years old. So we have unrealistic expectations of the longevity of guitars.
That's an old sales pitch of mine. What else in the world for, we'll say $300 can you buy that is fun, is educational, can make money, can
get members of the opposite sex interested in you, or the same sex if that's your thing too,
and last.
You can use this instrument to mate
50 years or more.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
There's probably nothing you can buy.
Oh, and when you're done, you could probably sell it and get your money back.
Yeah, you can get all your money back. Which happened. I don't know if I said this on that, but a guy came in. He bought a Gibson 125 in 1976. No, 1950. It was a 1956, but he bought it in 58. And he goes, "I've had this guitar my whole life, and I want to sell it." And he spent like $200, $200 something on it. And I did the conversion and for the rate of inflation, and what we were selling it for was 15, 18. I don't remember exactly, but somewhere between 15 and 2,000. And he is getting his money back.
Right.
He's $200 in 1950s or $178 in 1956 was, basically $1,600 in the year 2020. So he got his money back after all these years. That's tremendous. With that's better than money in the bank.
There used to be a store in Maine that was owned by a friend of mine, and he said, "You won't believe what happened. This old guy walked in a couple of weeks ago, puts this mandolin case on the counter, opens it up, 1928 Gibson Lloyd Loar mandolin, the Holy Grail. I paid $89 for this brand new, and I won't take a penny less." My friend gave him $500 and made some money to a guy who made some money to another guy who made some money, and probably sold for $50,000. Eventually,
it worked its way all the way up, and then it made to an auction at Sotheby's. That's another thing. The revealing a negotiation tactic. Never reveal your position before you begin negotiating.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first one to name a price.
Yeah, especially when your price is so ridiculously low. That actually happened. I won't say who. A dear customer of ours came in with a friend of his. I believe they were just at Daddy's before, and Daddy's lowballed them. So they're like, "Well, let's go over to Gary's," and then
Daddy's offered me this.
No, that's not what he did. He brought in my 1964 Vox Cambridge.
Oh.
He put it down on the chair, And he says, we're not taking less than $125 for this. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll give you $125 for that.
Oh, you're great. Daddy's offers 60.
Exactly. Daddy's probably offered them, 100 or less. I needed speaker repair. I needed a few other things, but I got that amp to this day. It is one of the best amps on the planet Earth, as far as I know.
I remember playing through it, I think.
Yeah.
Years ago.
That amp is, it's a Viking. I used to play it at a lot of gigs, too. I don't take it out much anymore. My last gig, I took out the Tone Master.
Yeah.
Which actually, that's another
there we go.
Topic. Yeah.
Digital amps.
Digital amps. I brought a Tone Master to a gig, and I enjoyed it. And I'll do it again.
Well, as I understand it, Fender is maybe the first company to actually be really smart about sampling and modeling and digital technology and taking all the power of that chip and using it for like 3 things.
We're just making the Fender sound.
Maybe Nord does that too.
Well, that's the Nord. That's my example. The Nord keyboard. Before the Nord, all keyboards had 200 crappy sounds and nothing you could find that you liked.
Right.
And so Nord said, let's have 6 sounds that everyone wants, and then make them as good as possible. Use all the RAM, all the processing power, and just make an organ, a piano,
right.
and so that's basically the Tone Master amp. That's you probably heard that from me because it just sounds like a Fender amp. The switch is in the same place. It has a standby switch, despite the fact it has no tubes. So you flip it on, you flip the standby switch on. I think there's a delay of several seconds before it turns on.
But it's not like waiting for the tubes to warm up.
Yeah, but it still gives you a little delay there. And the knobs all kind of, I've had them side by side. The only difference is on the regular Fender amp with the spring reverb, I like 2.5 is on a Fender amp is where I put the reverb. That's why I just like that little bit of something. But not so it's so noticeable. And on the Tone Master, I put on 2 to get that same sound.
Oh.
That's the only difference.
Right.
Now, only difference. There's other differences. They're not the same thing. Tone Master is a great amp. It's very full range. It has the speaker simulator built in. And I took it to a gig, and I'll do it again. And I'm not sorry. But that brings on this topic.
And they weigh 18 pounds?
Comically light. You could throw it across the room trying to pick it up. If you didn't realize it wasn't the other deluxe, you'd be like, what the hell? So it's got that going. So we have this age-old back and forth between tube and solid state. And you remember this unfolding. This is the old man.
I looked it up
area.
Years ago, and I've said it many times. And nobody's said that's a load of malarkey. So I think it's true. Tubes amplify even harmonics or pleasing harmonics. And solid state transistors amplify odd harmonics.
Yes, this is...
which are not pleasing.
I'll tell you what, this goes back to Russell Ham, who was a friend.
Ham radio?
No, but Russell was a friend of Bobby Hearn.
Oh, okay.
He worked actually with my father and Bobby Hearn at Fleetwood Recording in Revere, Massachusetts. But he was a genius, and he left really quick. There's some band from New York came through, and they're like, hey, kid, you're really good. You're coming with us. And they took him to New York, and he never came back. He was a genius, and he wrote the paper. You can look it up. He's the guy who wrote the paper on it. Yes, the harmonic overtones, the tube amp gives you 5s and 6s and 3s, like musically, pleasing harmonics, and the transistor gives you flat 1s and flat 4s and just kind of, I don't know the exact what he was saying, but yeah. So the overtone situation is different. That is why people love and continue. So the manufacturers want to make solid state amps.
Oh.
Because it costs a lot less money to make. They're easier to ship, and they're a little more worry-free. A little less maintenance involved in them.
I guess.
As the manufacturer, they're more worry-free.
Tube amps are easier to fix because most of the repairs, you take out 2 tubes, you put in 2 tubes, and you're done.
But as the manufacturer, they just want to sell you something that will work while the warranty is in effect.
Well, the most telling to me as a former retailer, part-time retailer, is when Fender first came out with their transistor amps in 1971 or so, and they just started shipping them to all their dealers, and a lot of their dealers took one listen and sent them back.
Yeah.
They don't sound as good. And,
Some early solid state was bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
To me, the easy explanation to the guitar player that asked me what's the difference is when they're on 2, they both sound pretty good. You put them on 5, the tube amp is sounding really good. The solid state amp is sounding less good.
Mm-hmm. And turn it all the way up, and the solid state amp is going to. No. So we're generalizing too much here, though. Yeah.
Right. There have been some good solid state amps.
There's different kinds of solid state amps. There's the original transistors, which were underpowered, and then later you have in the late 70s those the lab series amps took over for everyone who played a Fender Twin, threw it in the garbage and bought a lab series in 1978. They took over.
Oh, they did.
PV was making some good solid state amps, making some bad solid state amps, but making some good solid state amps. And then, of course, they had the PV Classic, which is they kept the tube amp all that time. Some companies were making good solid state amps, and solid state is great for bass because you got that headroom. You can make them crazy powerful and get all that headroom, the roundness out of the notes when you're not hitting the.
Right.
Guitarists want to hit the ceiling, and bass players don't want to hit the ceiling, essentially. So yeah, guitar and bass amps, you guys think you can separate those out because the reason great bass amps, the reason the B15 sounds great is you're using 3 watts of 22 watts when you use it. But the reason the SPT sounds great, the Ampeg SPT, it's just like 300 watts or something.
Yeah.
So you're still using 12 watts while you're playing it. Yeah.
Transistor world is like 4,000 watts.
Yeah, there's also watt perception of wattage too, which is.
Well, the old, I remember this came up with PVs. They had these solid state amps that were, 120 watts. It might have been Mark Steves. He knew the federal regulation from.
Yeah. Doing the.
You can measure it into any load you want as long as it's more than 0.5 ohms.
Right. So they were doing the 1
into
ohm.
1 ohm, it's 800 watts. Into 8 ohms, it's 40.
Yeah, and there's a lot of lying about wattage. There's a lot of lying about tube wattage too.
Right.
But let's go on a little bit further from that because so we got the new, more powerful. Then we got the MOSFET transistors in the 80s, probably. Yeah,
I almost remember what that means.
Cleaner.
Field effect transistor.
Yeah, FET is field effect transistor. MOS is MOS.
Grows on trees.
Yeah. So that was an improvement in solid state technology.
Yeah, the Marshall MOSFETs were pretty good.
Yeah. If you find one of those, get it.
Oh, what was the good PV ones were the tubes something. They had a lot. All their amps for a while were simulated tubes, and they were considerably better than the other ones.
Yeah, and then you had the resurgence of tubes, where like people just insist on tube amps. And that kind of started in the grunge era a little bit, maybe the 90s.
Well, for me and everybody I know, it never ended.
Yeah.
It was always.
But like the idea of like everyone walked in the store and they pick up every amp and look in the back of it to make sure it had tubes in it. Right. And if it didn't have tubes in it, it's no good, which is also the wrong way to look at it. Then maybe 5 or 6 years ago, what happened in bass amps first? With those, those tiny, powerful heads. We talked about that last week. I couldn't remember the name.
Walter Woods.
Yep, there you go.
The high-end one, but there have been others.
So bass players were a little ahead in the curve on that. And then the, what do they call those? The Quilter amps about 5 years ago were just killing people how good they were sounding. Digital, so class D amplification. So D is for digital, I guess. So A and AB, and there's just B, I guess. But it's talking about, when we talk about the class of the amplification, it's how clean the signal is and how it's made. So when we have just one tube, that's called class A, just going in one tube, out one tube. We have a push-pull pair, that's called class AB. The 2 tubes working together.
But at opposite ends.
With a reverse phase, and one's pushing, one's pulling. Yeah. But still, it's not as clean as that one low power tube. Like these audiophiles who love those 8 watt, I think they're 6 watt 300B tubes.
Oh, yeah.
That's Class A single-ended. If you just have that just barely up, you don't distort that, it's going to sound great. So Class D is a digital hybrid. It uses some digital stuff, chips rather than transistors, to do the amplification. This eliminates the power transformer sometimes because they'll use impulse power sections. It eliminates the need for an output transformer because they don't need to be coupled on the way out, or if they're coupled with not with big transformers, but with capacitors. If I'm getting too technical, someone write in the comments that I'm getting too technical.
We're learning.
Because the Class D amplification, that's when PA speakers started sounding really good. And that about 10 years ago. When you went to a show and you're like, look at those Mackies. This sounds good. Oh my God, it sounds like real music. It's not like that's the first application of that. That really, like, people, said like, hey, this solid state thing is pretty good. And in amplifiers, it's come around. And like I said, the Fender Tone Masters, great. Other things, people love those quilter amps, right? People like the Lunchbox, the ZD Lunchbox.
Oh, I was going to think the little box Lunchbox, but those are little tube amps.
Yeah. Well, oh yeah, that is. Yeah. But the the ZD, that one that Doug Bennett has.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Sounds great. Doug sold his Pro Reverb or whatever. Or did he sell it? Or
yeah, he's been doing various things with his old blackface Fenders. Yeah. But all the classic ones he had are either gone or
and modified. He just takes this little lunchbox and he says, sounds great to me.
Right.
Which is all that matters, how it sounds.
Well,
don't get...
In truth, Doug and a number of other of our friends, weight is 25% of the issue too.
Yeah, no, it's even more of the
sounds
issue,
great,
yeah.
and it's so easy.
Yeah, it's so easy to move, and so people are getting a lot lazier about moving their stuff anyways.
Yeah.
I remember showing someone the Fender Rumble, and I said, "Well, this is a small one, and that's the small one. Oh my God, it's the Rumble 100."
Right.
Like, well, yeah, this is a small bass amp. It's tiny for a bass amp, but so there's that overall trend of getting things that are smaller. But it is a better sounding amplifier. So and people are coming around, tube snobs. The reason when I heard about the Tone Master the first time was Kent Allen, who said I played this entire gig, and the guy told me after the gig I was playing through a digital amp. I didn't believe him. Yeah.
But it's the only one I know of that I would agree with that.
Yeah.
There's some other high tech, the old Johnsons.
Line 6. Yeah, that's awesome. We're selling a line 6 right now. You can see it down.
Lots of technology and not much going on.
Well, they get all of the sounds 80% there, but nothing's 100% there. Right. I think that's and sometimes they make them cheaply and they break too easy, like the Johnsons probably, and some of those Behringer ones.
No, it was not that Johnson. It was the other. They only made amps. They were $1,500 new. They were they had power tubes, and the rest was digital, if I remember
that
right.
Is wacky.
There weren't many, but they were around for a while. A few came in. I definitely remember Paul throwing his arms up. I can't fix this thing. It's a computer with tubes in it.
So our amp repair guy, Paul, once in a while he gets challenged by an amp, and he's like, I'm going to fix this MF if it can. And so what he did is he had one of those little powered heads with one of those little Class D chip things in it. He had to put a new one in. He has a medical at home. He had a medical microscope. He got like a yard sale or something, but like a microscope that you look down into, like to look at like bacteria. And he ended up using that to solder this chip in. That's how small it was. And so and he charged the guy like $60 to do it, and it took him hours. But it was just, I guess, maybe to prove to himself he could do it or something. I don't know. Once in a while, he's a dog with a bone. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
But they're no fun to work on. If I had a problem with my Fender Tone Master, I'd probably just send it to Fender. Because they, just like I have a Nord as well, and one time I turned on the Nord and it didn't work. And I talked to the guys at Nord, and they're like, "Oh, you need a new motherboard." I'm like, "What?" Like, yeah, your motherboard's dead.
Could try
And,
Best Buy. Maybe the Geek Squad could fix it.
Yeah, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's $600." I'm like, "Oh wow, man, that hurts," because the whole keyboards,
Right.
And then he's like, "Well, I'll tell you this. There's this guy in New Jersey rebuilds them for $250." I didn't tell you that, or whatever. The guy at Nord was like, "He does a good job." Talk to him. And so I did. You send him your old motherboard. He sent you a new one, repaired and with all the latest sounds on it. 4 screws. You put it in, and it just works now. And now that's been years.
When he fixes yours up and sells that.
Yeah, and sells it to the next guy. So it's a cottage industry.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, no user serviceable parts. That's a safe bet. So we're kind of around the halfway point. So I would do the reminder. Please write in the comments any questions, comments anything you want to talk about, want us to talk about for you, want to talk to us about. Subscribe and like and hit the notification for future episodes, just because that helps our overall YouTube presence, and we just want to make these videos and talk to you folks.
Right.
So there's the hard sell. So I'm a tube snob, but I have the Tone Master, and it's a tool, and it's a tool that works. Like, for example, I hated the XFX, or what was it called, XFX, the one that Bob and Woody got.
Oh no,
or Joe, Axel,
something like that. I can never think of that name.
Yeah. Anyone out in there,
just
put it in the comments.
Yeah, it's a super high-end modeling amp.
Yeah, it's basically a foot thing.
They're made around here.
Well, a few people, maybe in New Hampshire or something, but we had a customer who worked for them, and so he introduced us and other local musicians to it early. Bob got one, and it's great for Bob because he needed to do, he does a lot of bottleneck stuff, and he needed to get distortion at a quiet volume, a good distortion at a quiet volume, and that was haunted him for years. And he'd be playing a gig, and he's like, I gotta turn this amp up a little, just get that thing to sizzle, and everybody like, turn that down, man. So I'm turning it down, but I gotta, And so it helped just kind of end that problem, that age-old problem of getting the tones without getting it naturally through the amp. And he's got all his presets, and he can just, fly through them and gets a lot of creative interest.
Right.
So it's a tool, and if it works for you, then it's great. I personally don't like it, but he sounds great playing through it. He sounds great playing through no amp, too. Right. So there's that. But
remember, this company whose name we can't think of, they became very popular when Metallica got a bunch of their amps.
Yeah, Metallica
toured with them and a bunch of empty Marshall cabinets. There was actually nothing on the stage amplifying. It was all, I don't know, if the sound man was running them or a guy off the side had all the amps. I don't know. Just little tiny things. Imagine maybe they were.
Yeah.
I think they were just going through the PA. They weren't even using the 4x12s, I think.
No, they weren't using the speaker cabinets.
Works for Metallica. Must be good.
One of the biggest touring bands around, and they just switched to it. I've seen bands that switched to it. I've seen a lot of bands, and this is another case of the bass players being ahead of the curve. Any bass players out there, chime in. Because you go to gigs now, no SVT cab on stage. The bass is going direct, or not really direct, going through some kind of good preamp.
Right.
And that's going to the PA, and it's coming back through the monitors and going out to the front. And they don't have the big old bass cab on stage anymore. Most of the big and middle shows, I go to, I haven't been to anything that wasn't a beer garden show in a year and a half.
Right.
So no one has. But when I've seen bands playing like that, the bass players usually like, hell with a big amp and going to the PA. And that's also thanks to Class D amplification. PAs can be just loud enough and have the headroom to be able to not screw up your sound. It takes the sound man a lot more effort to screw up your sound than it used to. It used to be a sound man could screw up the sound easily because
it's all programmed now. They said it once.
Yeah.
We just have to tweak it for the room or whatever.
What happens when there's like clubs we go to? You're like, oh, you're Elroy? Let's go look at the presets.
Okay.
Like, okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You got essentially the same stuff with there. At least they know where to start from.
And then what do they play games on their phone? Well, I don't know what happens. But
Yeah, check their email. You can
running sound
always.
used to be a very intensive job.
Yeah, it's I got a new board and I'm loving it when I do live sound.
Is it automated?
No, it's not.
Oh.
It's an analog digital hybrid, so it actually has faders.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand that. I don't want to get too far into that, but the iPad kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. But we do got a comment here. Our
Yes.
first of the day. It's been a little
Yay.
light on the listenership here, but someone who goes by the name of Studio says, "Do you guys like flat wound strings? I think they sound great live and recorded on my Strats and Tellys." Yeah,
It's a certain
let's
sound.
talk about it.
It's not the sound that I like for most music, but certainly many great players have gotten great sounds with flats on
it's
their
kind of
tellies
essential in jazz.
Well, aside
Start
from
with
jazz,
that,
yeah.
It's
Most
become
jazz
essential.
players
Yeah.
do play flats. Bass players, some they come and go in popularity. Seems like every 10 years or so, every bass player in town has to try flats, even though they did it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, well, I'm going back to round ones.
Or if you're me, you have a bass that permanently has flat wound strings on it, and you just switch back and forth, and it's that sound and this sound.
Right.
I can see, especially now that amps can be a little brighter, a little more easily. I guess the question back to this person, whose name is Studio, is what kind of amps are you using? Because that's a big part of the sound. I like the feel of them. I just went over to get this from the display rack.
Well, there's some odd ones.
So here's something really odd. We had people coming in asking for these, so I got some.
Flat wounds for acoustic.
Flat wound for acoustic. So someone came in asking about it, and we couldn't help them out. And someone else came in, and they tried nickel flat wound. They weren't that happy, and then we're sorry. But, I said, this is the flat ones we have. And then Peter Black, I think,
Oh, yes.
that scoundrel.
He had tried them.
He said he liked them.
Yeah.
And someone, all right, I'll get, 5 sets or something, of which 3 are still here.
Yeah.
Because I went home and I put them on my guitar, my own guitar, because I have a archtop that I would use. I keep nickel strings on. You kind of get that Django-y sound a little bit, and it's just a quiet guitar anyways, and doesn't. So I would just keep nickel strings on this archtop. And I thought, well, phosphor bronze flat wounds. Sometimes I had phosphor bronze and elixirs on the same guitar too. Anyways, phosphor bronze flat wounds. I put them on. I swear to God, I'd take them off in like 5 minutes.
Was it the sound or the feel?
The feel.
Yeah. That's the point I was going to make. They feel very different.
Because these are those strings that are, so there's 2 ways to make a flat wound. You can wind a flat piece of metal around another piece of metal, or you can make a round wound string and grind off the outside.
Or squeeze it. Pressure wound.
No, yeah, there's pressure wound too, where it will squeeze into all the gaps.
Right.
But these are made by grinding the excess off, and it's phosphor bronze, so it's like raw bronze. And I guess the sensitivity of my fingers, I don't like microfiber cloth because it just like sticks.
Yeah.
All those hooks stick to my finger. It's just a bad feeling. This is like playing a microfiber cloth guitar. So, however, if you are interested in these, we have them. We still have 3 sets, and they're marked for $16, but I'll cut you a deal. So,
no good on the Strat or Telly though.
yeah, this is. But if you want to try flats on your acoustic, you are welcome to. Acoustic archtop, maybe that might seem for those strings. Yeah, we're just talking. Yeah, so Michael Kraus just chimed in saying that. Yeah, so this acoustic archtop would be. That's why I tried them on. I just didn't like the actual feel of the string. Gary's going to get something. So I'll just keep yapping. Flats for rock and roll classic, playing a line 6 and Fenders. So yeah, I say the flat wounds. I like the sound, and it's a little less of a bright sound, but I can see liking that for rock and roll kind of just classic rock. The flat wound strings were a lot more popular in the 60s with just about anyone. So that's another reason to talk about that. All right. But flat wound phosphor bronze, not my cup of tea. There's one other topic on my topics list that I want to talk about. Things are falling apart. Gary, come back. I lost my list.
Oh, it has
Oh,
stuck itself.
oh, nice. All right. Oh, well, there's a couple things on this list. So anyone has any suggestions? But I'm gonna choose one of these. We'll save this one. We already talked about amps. I'm going to talk a little bit about the guitar business. We do this once in a while. So there's this concept I talked about maybe 2 or 3 years ago before the pandemic, which was called peak guitar. When will there be, if Fender makes 1 million guitars a year and ships 1 million guitars a year, when will the world have enough Fender guitars? And they last forever,
Right.
assumably, like there's not, like if you picked up unless a guitar's been abused, a Telecaster or a Stratocaster or a precision bass, they usually keep working. So when will there ever be enough guitars?
I hadn't looked at it this way, but you could take make a point that the vintage guitar thing has taken enough guitars out of circulation.
Collecting, yeah.
There's probably millions of guitars that are in somebody's house not being sold or even played.
Yeah.
So
they're out of circulation. This is something that Chris Pern told me years ago, is a statistic, which this is what I like to talk about when talking about this topic, is there was at one time 1 guitar for every 4 Americans. So there was 80. So if you took Harmony, Kay, Gibson, Fender, Martin, you added up all their stats, they made 80 million guitars by 1982
right.
or whenever. So when the America's population was 360 million, there was 80 million guitars. So 1 in 4 Americans could have a guitar, and that was pretty much that's when everything was cheap on guitar. There's plenty of guitars for everyone. Then that same 80 million guitars, we now have to share with the entire world. All the vintage Fenders, Martins, Kays, all those. Now people in China want them, and in Russia want them, and all over Europe. And those guitars which we just had, we're swimming in vintage guitars, and now they're everywhere.
So we're not swimming in them anymore.
No, yeah, they've gone. All the 7 billion people in the world, and they all want those 80 million guitars.
Yes, it's probably when it. Trying to think, was the piano ever that popular? Because the piano was the most popular instrument in the world for a long time, until I think the mid 80s, the guitar surpassed it. So maybe that's where Chris got those numbers. But I bet there were 80 million pianos in this country not that long ago.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And they last forever too.
They last 100 years, that's for sure.
Right.
I would say forever, but
it's a long time.
And now you can't give away a piano, but if you had an old guitar,
right.
It's pretty amazing what people want to spend a lot of money on. But so back to the topic of peak guitar. So now, because of the pandemic, guitars become more popular suddenly. People were stuck at home. They want to play guitar. Yeah. We've been selling out of guitars constantly. Our suppliers are out of guitars. Godin, the largest guitar manufacturer in North America. If we order a guitar from them today, it will be here mid next year. Not mid, like later next year. They're more than a year out on production. Wow. Yeah. Fender's a good half a year. I ordered some P basses. We ran out of P basses. I ordered some a month ago. They'll be here right around Christmas time, maybe a little after. Let's hope before. Because it's a good thing to have for Christmas. The P bass for Christmas is a classic.
Yeah, there's a lot of supply problems.
Yeah, the manufacturers are having problems finding things, but things are more popular than ever. So, and then the other kind of companion. Here's the companion rant to that. Is Guitar Center's bankruptcy, which happened during the pandemic, and the current state of Guitar Center stores. Someone was at Guitar Center and came here because they have 10 pedals at Guitar Center.
Right.
And we have 60.
You hear it almost every day.
And we are a tiny store. We're not a big store.
They're, let me guess, 10 times bigger and have roughly the same
The
inventory.
same amount of stuff.
guess.
Yeah.
Except we have a lot more than 8 pedals.
Yeah. So that is weird. And part of that is if you can't make money selling guitars this year, then you should not be in the guitar business, because this year has been good to the guitar world.
Well, you can easily make the case that the owners of the Guitar Center are not in the guitar business.
That's true too. So,
They're in the profit business.
they're in the borrowing money business.
Well,
they use the
as long as they
asset
make a
to borrow
profit.
money. Yeah, that's better than profit. Because
Right.
profit you have to pay taxes on.
Right.
But if you borrow money, you don't pay taxes on that.
Yeah.
It becomes a liability.
Right.
So so one of my most popular videos on YouTube is it's called Guitar Center is a money laundering operation. And it's a little controversial.
Well, basically, that's what it is.
And but the funny thing about that is we a lot of guys who work at Guitar Center shop here. We like them. I don't think anyone at Guitar Center, and I hope Guitar Center stays in business forever, because having a competitor who's a little inept is really great for us. But also, all those people should keep their jobs. We got nothing against Guitar Center, but it is the executive kind of classic Guitar Center is, and I've met people all the way up and down the Guitar Center spectrum.
Mm.
I accidentally showed up at a party once at NAMM, and it was full of Guitar Center execs. And I spent the whole night drinking with them, and it was fun. They're great people, and they love guitars, and because they're the guitar. It's just the people just one layer up from that who are in the company that owns
musicians who work at Guitar Center instead of investment guys who own Guitar Center.
Yeah. So best of luck to Guitar Center, but it is it is a bit of a so go watch that video on YouTube if you're someone said I was at Guitar Center in Los Angeles yesterday. Crickets. So
Buddy Holly?
Not Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Pretty quiet in there. Also, Guitar Center has done this thing where I don't want to get too bitchy about this, but Guitar Center has done this thing where they pissed off Fender. And I know that because if you're talking to Fender people and you mention Guitar Center, like some inside Fender people I've talked to have just been like, you say Guitar Center, and then I think Guitar Center owes them $80 million, maybe $100 million. A lot of money for Fender.
Well, that's been the worry for 20 years, maybe, in the guitar industry is, well, what if Guitar Center goes out of business? Fender, Martin, Gibson, and Marshall, and they're going out of business too because Fender sells 70% of the guitars to Guitar Center. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they lose 70% of their sales.
Their sales, could take a company with them. Yeah. And if they take a lot of their debt with them, like, oh, we're not getting our $80 million, and we have nowhere to sell guitar. Fender has a plan B.
Right. I think that most companies are smart.
Most companies are like developing that plan B, and Fender, like 2 or 3 years ago, they're like, we got to be in a position where we can write off this debt and move on if it happens. Right. But also, when Guitar Center goes to Fender, it's just like, oh, all-time greatest sales. Give us some guitars, we'll sell them. Fender goes like, where's the money, buddy? Come on, keep the money. You just got some loans. Give us our money.
I remember the Godin rep telling me that story quite a few years ago with Guitar Center. I asked if they were still selling, and he said, well, they have a few in the store, and they want to order more, but we told them cash only. Never heard from them again.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to turn that into a Guitar Center rant. Well, right. Scott Fidget's here. Just says Happy Father's Day to me. So that's nice. Fidget. I didn't say fidget. Fidget. Yeah. Not fidget. But yeah, he's an old Portsmouth guy from way back. And just saying hi and Happy Father's Day. So we did I had my first ever Father's Day this Sunday. Today is my birthday. You can type Happy Birthday, and I won't care. I mean, I won't say. I'll say thank you. That's what I'll do.
I had my 32nd Father's Day on Sunday.
Yeah, it's getting up there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the end of the last 5 minutes is turning into the Guitar Center rant. But oh well. Oops. It means a lot to me. Like, so I'm interested in the guitar business. I bought a guitar store. I bought a guitar store when I shouldn't have. And then the guitar market turned around, and now it's okay to have a guitar store. But yeah, the future of without a Guitar Center less future. I mean, there are a bunch of people ready and willing to step in. For example, if Tommen came in North America,
Right.
which is the European German Guitar Center, essentially,
It's pretty much all there is in lots of Europe.
they run, well, the Guitar Center is what there is in lots of America, too.
Right.
They run a tight ship. And it's a family-owned company. They got no debt, probably. And they give good deals. They are in Deutsche Post, the DHL is in lockstep with them because they're a German company. And you can order things from them. They'll ship them worldwide, super cheap. Anyways, they would be a competitor that would scare me. So Guitar Center being there, it keeps Tommen out of the U.S., and that's good enough for me. All right. And something else in the wrap it up that I didn't do last week, but I meant to. We're talking about a favorite record. And you said Cream.
Wheels of Fire.
Wheels of Fire.
Yeah, that's the one that, not that I think about what's my favorite record all the time, but
Yeah.
that's the one that popped into my head.
But what popped in my head a few days ago, I was talking to Emma about Marvin Gaye. What's going on? Marvin Gaye, what's going on? If you haven't listened to it, do so. It is so good. And it's now 50 years old, just like me.
There was another 50th record birthday this week that
Yeah.
you might have be less excited about than me,
Yeah.
but Joni Mitchell's
Joni
Blue.
Mitchell, right, yeah. Which is a tremendous record.
One
She's
of the
a
great
prince.
records
Yeah.
of all time.
But Marvin Gaye, what's going on? Just get it and listen to it, or go on Spotify if you use that, or wherever you like to listen to music.
Certainly a song that's 50 years old and is just as valid and pertinent, and maybe more so than it was today.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, true. Yeah, it rings true. About inner city. He was talking about the problems that African Americans
Right.
essentially were facing, but all just poor Americans as well. People who weren't in the class of privilege and stuff, and it rings true today too. And the music is exceptional. The playing is exceptional. Yeah.
Did you tell us your favorite record yet?
That's what I'm saying for today is my favorite.
Oh,
record.
I thought you said that was Emma's favorite record.
No. She asked me what's
Oh.
a good Marvin Gaye song? And I'm like,
Oh.
Inner City Blues. Yeah. And she goes, oh, how's that go? And I'm like, da 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 da. And then she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like,
I'll speak to her dad.
da 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 da.
I'd be shocked if her dad didn't.
No, but she turns out I put it on the computer. She'd heard it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, okay, good. But Inner City Blues, which is some people think it's called "Make Me Want to Holla," because that's the chorus on that.
One of the best. I'll just have to say it because I say it whenever I can. One of the great all-time vocal performances. Marvin Gaye, National Anthem.
Yeah.
NBA All-Star Game 1976, I think it is. It's on YouTube.
He's the one. You know how everyone goes on to sing the anthem and they give it the R&B treatment, and they try to give it all the passion and all that. And so every year at the Super Bowl or somewhere, someone's singing that anthem. He was the first one to do that.
And they haven't.
And no one's
even
beat him
come
since.
close.
No one has beat him. So even all that, even we hear Aretha and all those other great, Marvin Gaye nailed it.
Well, he
Invented
takes
it and nailed it.
the national anthem of the United States and turns it into a song that could have been on What's Going On and been okay.
Right.
He interprets it with the same words. It's astounding.
All right.
We miss Marvin.
Yes, that's for sure. And I guess that's a good place to leave it off for today. So if you missed the beginning, you can go back and watch it. If you're just joining us, thanks for watching. See you again next week. Please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notify button. That kind of helps us get a little further in the YouTube world and helps more people discover this and et cetera,
Input.
et cetera.
We need input.
Yeah. And then, send us questions, comments, and we will talk about them next week. We need topics. We can usually bullshit about anything, but it's good to have audience participation. So,
Participate.
yes. All right, so we're going to do the wrap it up. Thanks again for watching.
Yep.
Stand by for the ending. Stand by.
And choose.
Say goodnight, Gary.
Good night.